with you. Hey everybody, how are you? Kim here.
Jamie.
We are ready to talk about badass leadership. And I gotta be honest, leadership is probably one of our biggest and most favorite things to talk about and to really kind of try to embody, right? I mean, you went to school for leadership and you did that. I love leadership. I've been working.
Hey, Robin.
Hey, Robin.
Heather.
Kind of been a leader in my career for the last 15 years. So for us, this was a really cool topic to be able to talk about and how we've embedded it into our business and into our organization, right?
Yeah, and first of all, well, congrats on being in this group. It meant you hit Success Club. Hey, Katrina. It means you hit Success Club 5 in February, which is what leaders do because you have to blaze a trail. And you have to be the person out in front that's doing the stuff that you want the people on your team to do before you. And that's part of leadership. So I have a question for you. I'm gonna throw this at you. We haven't rehearsed this. I didn't even tell you this before that I was gonna ask you this.
Okay, I'm ready.
Do you think that do you think leaders are born, made? You did? How did you know?
I don't know. I just okay.
What do you think?
I think that leaders are, that's such a good question. And that kind of gets to a philosophical, it can be a deep conversation. I think it's a bit of both, right? I believe that you can be made. I believe that you have the ability and the power to make yourself a leader with the right resources, the tools, the tips. But I think you also have to be kind of born with the inner drive. Because if you're missing some inner drive, or you're missing that get up and go, or you're missing the God damn it, I'm going to learn this gene, let's call it, that gets tough, right? Because often what happens is if you aren't made or if you aren't wanting it enough, you're not going to go after it enough, because leadership is a skill, guys. Leadership, you have to learn, you have to develop, and you have to consistently be, it's like a muscle. You have to consistently be growing that muscle. Yeah,
and you have to, like Kim said, leadership is a skill. You can develop it, you can work on it, through PD, we always talk about PD, but you can definitely sharpen that knife,
100%.
right? However, like anything in life, man, and I think this is where maybe the difference between, I don't want to give leadership a ranking or anything like that, but mediocre leadership or really top dog leadership is like, you gotta frickin' want it, right? And you want to rise above and reach these levels, because what happens is by doing that, people will follow what you're doing because they see you blazing that trail.
Totally. And I think with leadership, it's there's a fine line, right? There's a fine line between humble hustle and humble in heart, and I think you need to combine all three. I think you need to have, for really great servant leadership, I think you need to be able to hustle. I think that you need to be humble, and I think you have to have a hell of a lot of heart. And I think you have to believe so organically in what you are doing and so authentically in what you're doing to help inspire other people. And I think too that leadership can also be taken advantage of. I also think that if you're pushing for a rank, a goal, to hit something, you can also be the reverse of an empowering leader. You can become more of a dictator. And you need to be careful in this business. And we talk a lot about how we are the CEOs of our own business. Our tribe is not our employees. They are not. Your team is not your employee. Your team is a part of your tribe that was drawn to your leadership, was drawn to your vibe, was inspired by your message, by your post, by your transformation, whatever that is for you. So being a leader, guys, is a gift as well. And you have to really respect that gift, right? Especially in this organization.
It's kind of like we talk about, is it transactional leadership? Or is it
transformational?
Or relational?
Or relational,
leadership, right? Because you can go for certain ranks and goals, and it can turn into a transactional relationship. That's what you don't want. Right.
And I think that means, and again, I think that does mean, though, it's the speed of the leader is the speed of the pack. So I think that if you are putting out any expectations or a team goal, you've got to be stepping that game up too. And you need to be showing up. And you need to be giving people the tools, the resources, the tips, because you're consistently doing that as a leader. And that's what our roles are as leaders. You need to be stepping up and doing things, and we can't wait for things to happen. You have to take the action. And here's the other thing about leaders being made. There's a lot of leadership books you can read. There are so many principles of leadership that you can adopt, you can learn. But here's the thing. I suggest, if there's one way, for us, we're servant leaders. that is our philosophy of leadership. I lead with my heart, I lead with my head, but I also lead with a heck of a lot of ambition. But I believe that at the core of the visceral value is that love comes first, and I'm going to lead with love. And that doesn't jive for everybody. So you have to figure out what your leadership style is, first of all. The second thing you need to remember is that you don't need a title to be a leader. You don't need a ton of corporate experience. You don't need your masters. You don't need all that. But what you do need to do is take massive action on what you've learned. And then you need to apply it slowly and seek feedback from your team. Hey, how did that team call go? Did you like that topic? What did you take away from that? How are you going to apply that into your organization so that you are taking key lessons and you're learning? And what you're doing is you're teaching your team how to also become leaders as well.
You're on fire. I'm just going to, can I just go over there and watch you?
I love leadership. I can talk about this all day long.
You're just going. I don't even need to be here. You know what? I'm just going to see you guys later. So it's kind of like people won't follow what you say.
Yeah.
You can talk at people all day long. They're not going to follow what you say. They're going to follow what you do. And they're going to follow the mentorship that you show them in that path. Yeah. And that's why it's like we try to stay so engaged in the business to be those, because people watch and see that, you know, because you can talk all day long. Talk is cheap, guys. Yeah. Action says everything, and that's what makes people get fired up for stuff. So
totally.
So what is like a few characteristics? Like what do you think is a characteristic of a leader, or some leadership qualities and skill sets that they might have, or even things that they do?
I think that leaders have grit. I think that leaders are willing to do things when they are tired. I think leaders are ready to pave unknown paths. I think that leaders are people that show up every damn day, consistently. I think that leaders are kind. I think that leaders lead with their heart, as well as their mind. I think that leaders need to be strong, and their self-belief has to be super strong, because it's very easy as a leader to be consistent in your message, but sometimes people don't agree with that, you know. So you have to be strong and firm, but kind and humble.
I just asked for one thing. No,
sorry, I'm like, that's right. I can't stop.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
What about you? What do you define leadership as?
I think leaders are uber resourceful. I think they're the ones finding the answers, not asking all the questions.
Yep.
I think if there's not a way to do something, they create the way to do something.
Yep.
And that's part of being resourceful and seeking out an answer, or seeking out an opportunity, or a different way of doing something.
Yep.
The worst, I said this before on the champions thing, is like the worst thing you can ever say in business is we've always done it this way.
Right.
So I think leaders look for different ways to do stuff. And you can follow top people and other business leaders and do what they're doing and success leave clues. I get that. I still think you got to pave your own way sometimes, and you got to figure out what works for you. I think leaders step up when other people don't.
Yep.
You know, you ask a room of 10 people who wants to do this, leaders step like, I'll do that.
Absolutely. It's
true.
I'll
do that.
You're right.
I'll get it done. That's just what they do. I think leaders share information with other leaders, and that comes with like, you know, it's a good example is like this whole top 10 thing that happens, and it's like, you know, there's some spots there in the top 10. This is an example, but like it gets competitive a little bit. But I'll tell you what, some of those leaders are so willing to share their stuff.
Absolutely.
Because that's what leaders do. They're not jealous. They don't hold on to everything.
Yeah.
They have an abundant mindset.
Abundant.
So they're willing to share stuff because they know it's going to come back to them.
Yeah.
And by sharing, they're also going to learn themselves what works for other people, and in turn, they're going to give them stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it too.
Totally. And I think leaders don't complain. Leaders aren't the ones complaining. Leaders are the ones that are solution finders. They are the ones that say, this way didn't work, but here's 3 other ways I'm going to try. Because if we spend so much time complaining versus taking action, we will not move our business forward. And we are the only ones responsible for our own business. And the more we complain, the more you live there, right? So you have to just get that out of here, you know, and you have to just honestly, you have to figure out, and if you are so busy looking at everybody else's grass, and you're not watering your own, it's not going to grow.
Yeah, I think, that's such a good point. I think leaders...
Alexi Pano has a really great video on that. I watched her last night on watering your own grass, and she's so... I want to be like her. She's amazing.
She's a little bit like you.
Oh, well, thank you. That's a huge compliment. I love her.
She's, it's like...
She lives on a beach.
Yeah,
Can we put that on our bucket list? We don't live in a beach.
And like, leaders don't get jealous. You know what? They get better.
Yeah.
And rather than getting jealous of the people who are maybe succeeding a little bit better than them, they find out what they're doing.
Yeah.
Even better yet, they befriend them and figure out what they're doing so they can learn, right? Yeah. That's part of that. Don't be bitter. Just get better.
Yes. Bam.
Let's put that on a t-shirt.
Let's put that on a t-shirt.
Or that. So what do you, let's not make the video too long.
We're going to wrap this up.
But what do you think leadership isn't?
Well, I think we just kind of covered that. I think that... I think that jealousy doesn't exist in leadership. I don't think it can. I don't think complaining can. I think that if we can replace all those feelings with gratitude and abundance, because I think a lot of the time there are some leaders that lead in fear, and there's some leaders that lead in scarcity. And when that happens, your business will shrink because you aren't, I'm telling you, it happens, right? And if you live in that gets tough. So leadership isn't that. And sometimes that's human nature, right?
It's total
human nature to get that way. But you have to recognize it. I think that's the key to leadership, right? Oh dear. I think I might have gone down this way. It doesn't make you bad. It doesn't make it irreversible. It just is a good awareness of where you're at. So you have to be a researcher of your leadership, of your organization, and you have to be willing to adapt, because I think we just fail forward in this business every day, and that's what leads to success. And I think true leaders are humble enough to say, okay, well, that wasn't a good move. I'm really sorry. Can we, whatever you need to be able to do. I think you need to be able to eat that frog, if you're rocking the boat with the team member, you figure that out. So I think that's part of I think that didn't answer your question. It's like leadership isn't, but it can. I think it's positive and a negative, right? I think you have to have the flow and the cadence to know what your rhythm is and how you're flowing as a leader. Because I don't think leaders live in one way. I think it's so diverse.
Yeah, and you're constantly learning, right? All of us.
Every day.
And this is the one thing that I wanted to repeat. I said it on the champions page there, but I feel like leadership goes in with that CEO mindset, right? Yeah. And having the mindset that you are the captain of your ship.
Yep. Nobody
else is to blame. You take ownership for all the stuff that happens to you and your business and your downline and all that stuff. That's on you. That's a CEO mentality. But that starts with this opportunity, and this is the one thing a lot of people sent me messages after from what I said, and so I want to repeat it. It's like, when you sign up for this opportunity, it's $199 US. We're Canadian, so it's a little more, but it's $199 US to start this opportunity, start this business. Yeah. Well, I always say to start a company, it costs $199, which is ridiculously low. Like, it is ridiculously low. Unfortunately, because it's so low, and there's actually not even a coach fee attached to that, you just get product to try, you even set it back after 30 days. There's no other businesses like that. You can't start businesses for 30 days and then get a refund on it if it doesn't work for you. That being said, unfortunately, people treat it like a $199 business. Yeah. They treat it like that. Right. And I talked about this, like my brother and I opened retail stores, and we borrowed money from my parents, and we invested a couple $100,000. Most of it was our parents. Yeah. We paid them back. However, in the hopes that we were going to make money, you don't think we busted our asses every day, every dang day to get that money back because of the investment and our parents sacrificed for that money? I think you need to treat every business like that. I love that. And that's when we started this, and when I started it, I treated this as like, this is a legit business. And I signed up for the coach fee because we were drinking Shakeology. It was $49.95. Yep. You think I treated it like a $49.95 business? Nope. Yeah. Nope. I treated it like a $200,000 business. No, but that's the truth. And I think you treat this like a hobby, it will pay you like a hobby. That's just it. If you treat it like a legit business, that you're not going to put food on your family's table. Imagine if someone told you if you didn't hit SC30 every month, you wouldn't get your 2-week paycheck from your full-time job. Yeah. You think you'd hit SC30? You think you'd do everything you could to hit SC30? Of course you would.
Yeah.
Because that's treating it like a legit company
100%.
business.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens is the investment's so low, people treat it like that.
Totally.
So
I think that's the best point to end on. I think that that's such a good point. And I completely agree with you. And there's often conversations that I have where you can tell where the coaches are at and what level they want to work at and what level of grit they're willing to put in and how resourceful they are. So I think that all comes down to leadership, and it all comes down to how do you want to build your business? How do you want to represent your brand? And how do you want to rock your organization? Mm-hmm. And I think leadership is absolutely key in that. So thank you guys. We're
taking our kids to
We
Niagara
are.
Falls. We're driving to Niagara Falls.
Woo!
We live really close to it, so we're taking them for the night.
All right, guys, you have a blessed day. I hope this was of value. We will try to get in and answer any comments below, but keep rocking it. Well done on hitting SC5 and inspiring lives, and let's make March just as great.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.